Well, today we're going to be cooking lamb stuffed with rosemary and garlic, and I'm going to serve it with a Greek salad, which I shall make in a moment, and also a nice coarse coleslaw, which again I shall make. So here are the ingredients for the Greek salad. We've got feta cheese in the foreground, obviously, nice vine tomatoes, cucumber, fairly coarsely chopped, a red onion to put in there, again fairly fine, some cloves of garlic which have been in brine, some pitted black olives which obviously are essential for Greek salad, and some black pepper over the top, and we'll probably put a bit of olive oil on there as well towards the end, but I shall make that in a moment. Right, let's start by chopping the tomatoes. Let's cut them into quarters first and then chop them down through the middle so they're in eighths. So I quite like chunky tomatoes in the salad, and so this will be nice, lovely sharp knives, by the way. Fatfoot would do it slightly smaller by doing that into 6 sections there, and likewise this one here we can do similar, and these will be good. I won't you can see the other 2 tomatoes there, and so we won't worry about showing you chopping those. I always find it best to chop the cucumber down like this first, into quarters or eighths, probably quarters, sometimes sixths will do it as well, without getting too over the top about it. But I think this will do. We might have to chop it down again, but that should give some nice chunky bits. In fact, we'll just go down through and cut these like this as well, so that it's not too larger pieces in there. Those look alright, and then literally chop them into fairly large cubes. I say cubes, sorry, not cubes exactly, are they? Quadrants or segments. There we are. So. I usually cut the onions into small rings. It makes nice slices within the thing. Bit of the onion in the centre wasn't too good, so I'm going to do this, and I may get another onion from the kitchen just to make it up, see what the proportions are when we get in there. You have to vary these things when you're cooking, don't you? So this is the red onion. Just chop that a little bit more as well. You can see that makes some nice rings there. And do likewise with the other half here, so that'll be good. Some nice thin slices. This will come out lovely. That just collapsed, so we'll do this with it there. You can probably hear that banging. There we are. So we've now got some nice rings of onion. There's a little bit there that's a little bit coarse. So make sure we slice those. We don't want too many large pieces in there, so that's nice. And now, of course, for the feta cheese to be cut to size. I find about 1 centimetre or just less than that to be fine. You can actually cut it down through the middle of the cheese as well, like this. There we are, do it like that. It does crumble, but it doesn't matter. You're not after perfection, are you? It's what you get in Greece. In fact, very often they serve it as a slab in Greece. We certainly had that in one of the nice restaurants in Kos. And then that bit there. But I do love a Greek salad. It's of course very healthy as well. So let's chop those nicely here. There we are. That's that bit done. Make sure we got them nice and fine. And let's add that. Well, I've got some black olives and the garlic cloves out of the brine or solution that they're in their respective jars. I'm sure you don't need to see me chopping those, so I shall come back when I've chopped them, ready to add to the rest of the salad. And as if by magic, we've got some chopped olives and garlic cloves, or for those who remember Blue Peter from the 1960s and 70s, although I believe it's still going, here's one I prepared earlier. And that's it. You may have seen me adding some black pepper on the top there. I sometimes add a bit of lemon juice as well, but not sure if we'll do that today, and certainly some olive oil before we serve it. But that's largely your Greek salad, which of course I will now stir up with some serving spoons, but I won't do that just yet. I'll do that just before we're ready to serve it. So now on to the next part, which is to prepare the lamb with the garlic and rosemary in the skin. Well, for the fuel today we're going to be using the original barbecue briquettes, which are Australian heat beads. Hope if I could say it properly, wouldn't it? And we start them with some paraffin wax shavings that I will put in the base. I'll introduce you to the Cobb in a moment. It really is a super barbecue, and as I mentioned earlier on, we're going to be using it with its rotisserie attachment today as well, which does lamb absolutely beautifully. And we're also going to be using the meter probes, or a meter probe, to monitor the cooking process. So come on to that in a moment. So here is the Cobb barbecue. Forgive the dog in the background, won't you? But the outside of it, when it's actually lit, is completely cool, so that works very well. I'll just show you the inside. So the shavings are in there ready to go. Not sure what the dog's doing in the background, forgive me there. And I should just add the coals when I've lit the paraffin. Like you can see, it's got a moat around the edge, and I'll put some water in that as well, so that the lamb fat doesn't catch fire and ruin the meat. So that's the wax burners lit, and now we'll add the coals. And clearly leave those until they've gone nice and white, which is usually about 20 minutes. Oh, while we're waiting for the coals to go light, I thought I'd just take a moment to introduce the meter probes. You can buy an ordinary single meter probe with a connection, but I've got the 4. I'll be doing some cooking at some point on the large offset smoker, and sometimes we might be using or cooking some ribs and some brisket, possibly some pork. So it's nice to have the 3 sensors if we're doing that for a sort of bigger cook. But today we'll just use the 1 probe. You can see I've taken one of the probes, so when they're in the actual housing, it's charging them constantly, so you've got that, and you can see them all lit up on the screen there. And then there's an app which connects over the Wi-Fi, and I will go in and set it to that we're cooking lamb, that we're doing it over charcoal, and then you can say whether you want it medium, well done, or sort of off the bone, I think they call it, and that will vary the temperature. And as you go through the cook, it estimates the time for completing the cook, and it's always very accurate. The only thing you have to watch with lamb leg is it's got a bone in it, and of course the bone gets hot over the charcoal, so you want to make sure the end of the probe is not near that. and likewise not near the skewer going through the rotisserie, because that gets warm as well, and that can fool it into thinking it's already cooked. But it really is, and even when it says take it off the heat, it even gives you a resting time for the meat as well, and you can actually look up a graph. I'll put some graphs in the video later on. So this is an absolutely brilliant little unit, and very accurate. We've actually, apart from the bone thing that I mentioned, it's always been very accurate. Just make sure the end of the probe, the black end you can see there, that tells you the temperature inside the barbecue or in the oven. It doesn't have to be done for just barbecues. And the sharp pointy tip, that's telling you what the temperature is in the meat, and obviously that's got to get up to the temperature that you desire for your meat to be cooked properly. Well, we've got our own rosemary plants in the garden. In fact, we've got quite a few herbs, and so I'm going to chop a little bit off from there to stuff into the meat. We quite often do this in the winter in the oven as well, but it's nice to do it in the rotisserie during the summer months. So another one there, and I shall prepare that in a moment. So the ingredients really are just the garlic, the rosemary, all stuffed into the meat, which gives it a lovely flavour. And then, as you see in the background, just a little bit of low salt on the skin as well, just to add a little bit of flavour. Not too much though, obviously for health reasons. So here's the lamb stuffed with cloves of garlic and rosemary, and ready to go on the barbecue once I've put the rotisserie skewer through the middle. That'll be raring to go. As we can see here, the cloves are now completely right, so we're absolutely ready to go on there. I hope you can see that around the edge of the coals. I've now put some water in there, which will boil because it's next to the coals, but also I've put some rosemary in there as well, so that that will steam the rosemary flavour into the meat as well. So now just to add the heat plate, which goes on top, and that stops the fat. The water will also mean that should the fat drip down through, although it's mostly on the outside, it won't catch fire and give the meat a really horrible flavour, which happened just the other week. And then in a moment I shall add the rotisserie attachment as well. So this is it with the rotisserie added to the barbecue. You can look inside and see the plate there. It's got holes on either side to take the skewer. And then, because you're cooking in like an oven, there's a domed lid that goes on top to cook the barbecue. And you can vary the heat by adjusting these slots at the top as well. So back in a moment when it's come up to temperature, and I should just go and skewer the meat now. So here is the meat on the skewer, the spit I should call it really, shouldn't I? So that's it, ready to go on. I just got to add the meter probe, which I shall do selectively in a moment to make sure it isn't near the bone or the metal rods, so that it doesn't get a false reading of what the actual temperature is. And so we're off. I don't think the meat's very balanced on there, but I'm sure it'll be okay. That's a bit of a problem when there's a bone in the middle, trying to get it sort of banged through the middle. But nonetheless, we'll be okay. Well, that's with the lid on, and one of the secrets of using the Cobb is to not keep taking the lid off, otherwise the temperature drops inside, and it is a nightmare to try and finish the cook with that. I have done it, but it's not really advised, so I'm afraid there isn't a lot to see until we actually take the lid off when the meter probes have said they've done their bit. So I shall be back later to report in. I shall set up the meter probe for the cook now that it's going round. So we're using meter probe number 1. I just thought I'd show you on my phone screen. Hopefully that's clear enough. It's on there. And you can see probe number 1 is already on quite green. So if we go into 1, it says set up cook. So you then literally set up the cook. We're going to say we're cooking lamb. It's a whole roast is what we call it. And it's actually a leg of lamb. And then we'll say that we're cooking it over charcoal. And then we'll say we want it done well done, so that's 71 degrees in the oven, and we'll say start cook, and it really is that simple. It says that the sound's turned off on my phone, so I'll just turn that on, and sorry about that, didn't realise that was down. So there we are, that's now done. and it's now estimating the cook time, but you can see the pink arrow on this side is showing what the temperature in the meat is. The blue is the target temperature, and the green, which is now at 120. Well, I just thought I'd give a personal update on the progress of the lamb rotisserie. I've just looked at the meter probe settings, and it says that it's got 24 minutes to go. There's not any much excessive smoke coming off the barbecue. I can smell the lamb, the garlic and the rosemary all coming off in the from the top of the barbecue. But as I said at the start, I'm reluctant to open the lid, or it means the temperature drops inside, which makes it hard to continue. It's currently sitting there at 147 degrees centigrade, a bit of smoke coming across there, and the meat's doing well, and it will be ready, as I say, in 24 minutes. But then it will need to rest, of course, and the algorithm also detects how long that requires. So the end of cook has just come up on the meter probe, which is just, well, because the coals are starting to get cold. So here's the big reveal. Let's see what we've got, shall we? Oh, look at that. Absolutely delicious. That looks really nicely done. That's going to be lovely. I should just leave it rotating on there for a while, just while it rests. So the temperature will drop right down now because it's there, but it just keeps it a little bit warmer to slowly come down in temperature. And you can see the meter probe. In fact, you can see a bit of bone sticking out, just coming around the top now. And here comes the meter probe, so you can see number 1 coming round. So that's done. And so here it is, rotisserie lamb with Greek salad. I've stirred up the Greek salad, as you'll see in the bowl in the back, and the meat is smelling absolutely delicious. The rosemary and the garlic have really infused in it. So thank you for watching, and more to come from this channel and from outdoor cooking in general. Well, I've just carved the meat, and here it is ready to eat. So we're actually going to eat indoors because it's gone a bit cool now. It's coming up for 7 o'clock and the sun's going in, so although it won't set till nearer 9, it's gone down behind the houses. So well, bon appetit.